Hello, my name is Clive Price, and today's topic is why the discovery phase is so critical in sales and how it helps immensely in closing deals. In fact, it is the deal breaker that I believe makes or breaks deals. And I'll be focusing on the critical ingredients that are required as a necessity to master the discovery phase and what you as a professional should be doing. I've had the privilege of well over 250,000 learners through my hands over the last 30 years and covering about 8 different countries. And our research tells us that 85% of salespeople tend not to do this phase properly. In other words, they gloss over it and tend to go into the third phase, which is presenting or pitching a solution. So the question really is, why do top salespeople and average salespeople tend to avoid the discovery phase? There are a couple of ideas that come to my mind from the empirical knowledge I've gained from these sessions. And that is that salespeople, by and large, are well trained in terms of product knowledge, and they're given a whole list of features, advantages, and benefits, and they're told how absolutely magnificent their products are, and go out there and sell them. That tends to be the words coming down from management. Management tend to thump their chests and say, it's easy to sell this product. It solves X, Y, Z issues, and it's specially designed to, and its cutting edge is, and they name a number of differentiators and so on and so forth. So to a large extent, the salesperson is conditioned, brainwashed, to thinking that their product is really top-notch and really will satisfy any kind of problems that a buyer might have. Now, this couldn't be further from the truth. When one is dealing with a prospect, one doesn't actually know what their existing situation is. One hasn't developed a relationship yet, or certainly not a trust yet. One needs to find out exactly what the challenges are and the issues that the prospect is facing. What do they look like? What is the story behind the story? Why are they grappling with this? What have they done to try and overcome it? If they continue like this without a solution in place, what is the opportunity cost? Can one boil it down into dollar terms? Now, this is important because if we can start to distill the issues into dollar terms, then this tends to astound prospects, the cost of not proceeding or not going ahead or not fixing it, basically. I'd like to remind you that the first audio cast was all about prospecting and all about differentiating between suspects and prospects. When we talk about the discovery phase, we need to really understand the prospect and what they're going through, but the challenge is that they often won't tell us. And sometimes they even don't know the extent of the problem. So we need to be that independent analyst that helps them hold their hand and dig deeper into what is creating the issues. What is the root cause? Now, that should be the only thought going through our brains at this stage. There is a time for when you can present your solution, and that'll be the next phase. And that solution will then be customized to suit the precise needs of the client. So because we cannot predict what the buyer's issues are, although in some cases they're pretty generic, in a lot of cases there are little fine-tuning aspects that need to be done to customize to a prospect. And we need to be establishing how we can best do that. We need to understand the pulse beat of the prospect. What does keep them awake at night? What are their concerns? What are the consequences for them? And really come to grips with their issues. That shows that our intent or our purpose is pure. It's not just we want to close a deal. In fact, I never think that I'm a salesperson. Whether I'm in a virtual meeting or on the phone, I do not consider myself a salesperson. I like the definition of closing, which goes as follows: the process of helping people make the right decision. And that's why I say it's not an instant process. We first need for the buyer to trust us. Now, we know we can't buy trust. What we can do is we can question intelligently, and we can listen in an engaged fashion, not just hear, but listen in a conscious and engaged way. Now, that will convey the feeling to the prospect of our intent. There's a guy called Mahan Khalsa, Khalsa, and he wrote about Let's Get Real, or there's a subtitle there, Let's Not Play. And I like these descriptions that he gives to the importance of intents. To paraphrase what he says, he basically says, if your intent is right, it counts for a lot, and it will be seen and perceived by your buyers. Now, the same applies to great sales pros, and that is that they do not leap to solutions too quickly. They really get to grips first with the prospect. And in so doing, there is a trust relationship that starts to build. Khalsa talks about a common phrase: seek first to understand before we seek to be understood. People have to really trust that what you will do will actually get them the results and the relationships they want. But before that, they need to trust you, that you will actually do what you say. And they will come to see you as the solution. They will not see necessarily your company as the solution. So many salespeople make the mistake of starting off with being in business for X amount of years. We pioneered new technologies. We are great because we have these clients on board, and so on. And they name the logos and they name the brands and things like that. It means nothing to a buyer. Sadly, they're not interested in you. They don't really give a hoot. They don't care. All they really care about is, can you provide a solution to my issues? So the one mantra that's going through their minds all the time is the WIIFM radio station. And if you don't know what that acronym stands for, it stands for What's in It for Me. Now, we all have that mantra. Consider when you go shopping for anything, say you're shopping for a laptop or a TV set, the first thing that's going through your mind all the time is what's in it for me, irrespective of what the salesperson is doing. And you and I both know that when we get cold calls and the first person says, how are you today? I know straight away, and I'm sure you do too, this is coming on as a cold call. And then they proceed to bombard you with fantastic features, advantages, benefits, and why you would benefit if you bought their product now. Now, that type of manipulative selling is just so old-fashioned. Its days are gone. The presentation trap, which is a salesperson presenting a solution too early, is a real trap. One only gets into the presentation phase way down the sales cycle. Once we've identified the 3 pain points, the 3 gaps, the 3 areas of discomfort that the prospect is going through, only then do we present, when we are sure we understand the prospect thoroughly. Returning to intent, when people can sense that your intent serves their best interests, then they're willing to open that trust valve a little bit. If the little bit is rewarded, they can risk more. When I say rewarded, that the salesperson gives solid advice, uses third-party proof of where they've used this solution in the past, then the trust valve starts to open a bit more, and so on. If the risk is continually rewarded, then the trust grows. And of course, as you well know, all the hard-earned work can vanish if that bond is broken with anything that the salesperson does in action or says in words that in any way are an interruption to the building of trust. So we have to really live up to that intent that we need, we want, we cannot proceed without their serious participation. In terms of the techniques and skills, what are the skills that we require in terms of the discovery phase? There is an abbreviation here called 5 whiskeys and 1 hotel. And this is just a phrase to help you remember these open-ended questions that one can ask. So, for example, the 5 whiskeys would be where, why, which, when, and 1 hotel is the H. Now, if you think about it, whenever you ask that, it cannot get a yes or a no response. What is the danger of asking closed probes? Closed probes are where you ask a question like, do you find that your customers are very happy with the end product? Now, that kind of question is a closed question because it can get a yes or a no. Now, chances are, if people are not certain, they will go back to their comfort zone. What is their comfort zone? Comfort zone is where people will actually say no. The reason being that no is a safe and it's not a vulnerable situation to be in. Imagine if you went around all the time saying yes. You could land up in some pretty dangerous territory. So bearing in mind that human nature is geared and inclined towards the no as being a safe answer, we need to master the 5 whiskeys and 1 hotel in order to ensure we do not get yes or no's. The second reason for using the 5 whiskeys and 1 hotel is to start and initiate what we call conversations. Now, when a great sales master is talking to a prospect, you'll find that it's a very natural conversation that takes place. When did this issue occur, and how long has it been going on for, and what options have you tried to address it? And then listening in a very, very focused, engaged way to the responses. This becomes a conversation very much like a chat between friends. You watch a friend at a barbecue or a group of friends chatting. If somebody says, I went on holiday to ABC but the weather was lousy, people will immediately say, when was it lousy? How long was it lousy for? When did you get a chance to get good weather? They naturally go into the open probes kind of situation. And then in business, all of a sudden we stiffen up and we become business puppets. And being businesslike actually works in your disfavor. What we need to do is to relax. If we are relaxed, then our client or at this stage, our prospect will also relax. And that's what we want, is a relaxed conversation. Now, it takes courage. We need to ask the courageous questions, like how long has it been going on for this? Some people might say, well, that's being a bit rude, or it's trespassing on their private territory. Well, there's no such thing as private when we're talking about finding specific needs. What we need, we're a business person, they're a business person. We need to be talking at the same level, peer to peer. A lot of salespeople, sadly, when they're meeting a doctor or a chairman or some big deal title, they tend to really clam up and they treat them with so much respect, like, thank you so much for your time. I'm so glad you could make this meeting. Oh, wow, this time was precious. All that nonsense. That stuff should absolutely be deleted from your vocabulary, because the minute that you put yourself down into an inferior position, it's the law of cause and effect that comes into play. And that means that the person you're talking to will treat you in the way that you are portraying yourself. So if you come across as being inferior, you will start to be treated in that fashion. You need to position yourself not above them, but on the same level. They're an expert in their business. You're an expert in your business. So this peer-to-peer is critical. No, we're not playing games here. We need to get answers so we can best decide how our solutions could be aligned to your issues. So we need the truth, and we need to pursue it relentlessly until we find what I call 3 pain points. That is 3 areas that need to be fixed up. Why do I say 3? Well, it's a magical number. If you only get 1, it might not be enough. You might not have enough ammunition when it comes to the close. So we need at least 3 pain points before we proceed or allow ourselves to proceed to the presentation phase. One of the problems with salespeople is that they're just too nice. What I mean by that is that we're all brought up to be polite and to be courteous, and I agree that that is critical in the world today. However, if we're too nice, we might start to avoid asking the tough questions, the vulnerable ones, the raw ones that drill down and get the truth. And we need to have what I call courageous conversations. You'll find as you go along and you practice these 5 whiskeys in a hotel, don't just stop at why. You can continue with why 3 or 4 times, even 5 times. Why is this happening and why did that happen? And question why can go on until the real root cause of the issue or problem is discovered. And as I said before, that it's critical because we often, the prospect or the buyer doesn't actually know the root cause. So one needs to be very much here like a doctor. If you walk into a doctor's rooms, they'll ask you, how long has this pain been going on for? When did you get it? What are the consequences of the pain? What have you taken to prevent it? And through this diagnostic investigation, the doctor's able to start finding the root causes of what's creating the pain and not just covering it up with a cosmetic Band-Aid. Like imagine if you went in to see a doctor and the doctor said to you, okay, I know exactly what your issue is. It's ABC, and if you take these 3 pills here, you'll be fine. Okay, I'm off to play golf today. How would you feel? I mean, you'd feel offended. Would you use them again is the question. Obviously not. So we need to think like a doctor in terms of our analysis. It is businesslike. It is all about them and not about you. No mention of whether you can solve their pains or not. We need to be very focused here, and that's why I say 3 pain points. Very often a buyer will say, okay, show me what you would do in a situation like this where I've got this pain. And the temptation to provide the solution is huge. So one needs to do what's called parking. You need to park issues. So as a salesperson, I would answer, that's a very good question. So you always acknowledge that it's a good question. That's very good. Let's just park this for a while until I understand a bit more about you and your business. Now, the interesting thing here is that people, even the shyest people or the most analytical personalities, they will start to open up when you ask intelligent, good questions and they can observe that you are listening. They will open up, and then sometimes it's quite difficult. The tap starts to really open and they pour out so much stuff. Now your job is to channel that discussion, to make sure we keep on coming back to what is the root cause. In fact, a good way to summarize a perfect discovery call is, are you able to write down the root cause in 1 sentence? That is really to distill all the fat away and all the fluff away and get it down to what is the real issue here that's creating a lot of symptoms and then ultimately it's creating the pain. And if we can, as a salesperson and a buyer, if we can agree that this is a statement, this is the root cause, once we've agreed that, then we really are home and dry when it comes to presenting. The other thing I want to mention is before one is tempted into the presentation phase, for goodness sake, summarize what those pain points are. Not what you think has been said, but what you believe is the case with this prospect. And here is where you do use closed probes, yes or no's. And the way I would do it in our business is, so to make sure that I really understand what your issues are, I have summarized them as follows. 1, your salespeople do not go out and prospect as much anymore, and they don't understand how to use the virtual media available. Is that right? Now, the minute I get a yes, that's what I'm looking for. And then again, say the second one and say the third one. It's called fishing for the yeses. Now, each yes is a golden gem. People talk about closing deals. Well, closing is really taking place throughout a sale. It's not at the end where people normally position the close, but it's throughout the courageous conversations that you're having. So the rule of thumb here is if you get 10 yeses, you can call them 10 micro yeses or 10 GCs. GC stands for GC, general commitment. 10 yeses is normally the rule of thumb of what I look for that in our business constitutes a perfect sale. So you do the summary and you, as I say, you look out for the 10 yeses. If you get a no from the suspect at this stage, fantastic, no problem. It allows you the chance to go back. Maybe something was misunderstood, but you need to revisit that as soon as possible. So to fish for the no's is also a good tactical weapon. Are there any areas that you don't agree with? And that's a closed probe and get a yes or a no, but you want to fish for the no as well. By repeatedly asking these 5 whiskies and a hotel questions, what you're doing really is you're peeling away the layers of an onion, and you will eventually get to the root cause of the problem. Very often, the ostensible reason for a problem will lead you to another question. So you don't have to have all your questions written down as a script beforehand. Some people, if they follow that script, they become too focused on the script and they forget to listen. A natural conversation will evolve if you've got 2 or 3 good open-ended questions. And I suggest that you do write down, let's say 5 good open-ended questions for yourself as prompts, and have it open when you're speaking to a prospect. Now, in order to be a successful master sales pro, we need to understand the real story, the story behind the story. Sometimes people are embarrassed to say that the production line is failing or that something is going wrong or absenteeism is high. You know, it might just be that they're embarrassed and they don't want to get word out. So you will find that as you strip the onion more and more and more, you get to the truth, the real truth of the matter. And that's when the suspect has decided to trust you. You have resonated with the suspect or the prospect because you have listened to them. You have put them first, not yourself first. And therefore, we're able now to do good business. It's good business practice. Too many salespeople try and beg a deal. They call it begging for a deal. You know, I'm behind sales target. I've got to get some more business in. My sales manager's cross with me. All those kinds. They might not say that to the buyer, but that's often what they're thinking. Now, if you're under that sort of pressure, then don't do a call that day in that state of mind. It's called positive self-talk, and what that means is the opposite of negative self-talk. Negative self-talk is when the salesperson fills their mind with the negatives. I can't do this. I'm just not succeeding. I'm going to get into hot water here. I've got to close a deal. Now, the minute that pressure builds up, it will translate into behavior, sets of behaviors that will cause the buyer to be suspicious of you because you're sounding pushy. You're sounding like you're down. And that's the very opposite. We need to be thorough, good business people. I'd like to conclude with a quote which I have pasted on my laptop by a guy called Edward Hodnett. And he writes as follows: asking questions is the ABC of diagnosis. Only the inquiring mind solves problems. Close quote. So, in summary, today, I hope I have shared with you the problems of going straight into a pitch too early without finding 3 pains. And I find that so many reps that we have in our classes, they use the discovery process as a way to promote the features and benefits of their products. They don't do it as a way of exploring with the prospect the challenges that the prospective buyer is facing. And this tendency undermines the rep's ability to build rapport with clients, which means, in the final analysis, fewer closed deals, which is such a pity. Okay, if you want to get hold of me, please do so. Just type my name into Google, Clive Price, or you can send me an email, clive@mypeergroup.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you want to have a look at any of my blogs, you'll find articles on LinkedIn and on our page. My sincere hope for you is to think about what are the 3 takeaways that I've heard today that I can use now, and write those down. 3 action steps that you are going to try. You know, sales is all about experimentation. And the nicest thing about sales, why I love it, is that we can experiment. You know, we're not like in accountancy when we make a mistake, that is a mistake. And it's quite easy to pick up. We've got the freedom to try new things. We've got the freedom to explore and to learn from our explorations. In the very early days, I used to have a tape recorder and I used to record my conversations and I would listen to where I was going wrong. And I've always got a second chance, always in sales. So be optimistic, be happy, and enjoy your selling. Until next time, Clive Price signing out. Cheers for now.